Today we are doing a buying guide for Givenchy Gentleman line. So if you're unsure which of these 4 fragrances to buy, this video will hopefully help. And we are going to start off with Givenchy Gentleman BOISEE. The common factor in all of these 4 fragrances is the note of iris. They're all going to contain the iris note and woodsy note, okay? So there's not a huge difference between the 4 fragrances. It's more just that the 2 or 3 notes at the top have changed. The base of the fragrance in all of these is fairly similar. So we're starting off with BOISEE. This is going to be iris, cocoa, woody notes and patchouli, okay? It smells very professional. It smells like somebody who goes to work wearing a suit, someone who wants to smell really well groomed and really well put together, and someone who looks after themselves. BOISEE is a very nice professional smelling fragrance. Not my favorite from the line. It's not very sweet. It's more of a woodsy fragrance, very woody and irisy. What Givenchy does really well in these fragrances is blends the smooth woods with the iris so well, and the balance seems really good in all of these fragrances. Really pleasant to wear, and they smell like a perfect gentleman. So Givenchy Gentleman BOISEE would be a great choice if you wear a suit to work and you want to smell really professional. Moving on, Givenchy Gentleman Intense. So again, the base of the fragrance is fairly similar to the BOISEE, but this is a bit more green. You have the note of basil and cypress. So this had a green aromatic touch and a spicy touch as well, with cardamom in the opening. So there are some differences when you smell them on a test strip, and I actually prefer the smell of this one over the BOISEE because I think it's a bit more interesting with the basil and the cypress. I really like this green aromatic nuance that this gives. But once you get through that and you go into the dry down, there isn't a huge amount of difference. I would say, though, that this Intense does perform better than the BOISEE. The BOISEE that we mentioned first of all in this video doesn't perform well on me at all. It sits back to a skin scent pretty quickly in the fragrance journey. But this one I think performs better, gives me a better sillage, and overall I prefer the smell. There is not much sweetness in here. You have iris, you have the woody notes, and it's fairly similar in style and structure to the BOISEE, just has a bit more of a spicy aromatic touch. Moving on to my favorite in the Givenchy Gentleman line, that is Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum. The reason why this is my favorite is because it has this dark vanilla note in the base, which I really love. I love vanilla in fragrances, and this mixes with the iris really well and smells quite similar to something like Dior Homme Intense or Valentino Uomo Intense. There are some differences which I did a video on, which you can check on my channel. But if you're looking for a fragrance that smells as similar to Dior Homme Intense as possible, Givenchy Gentleman is I would say, the most similar to Dior Homme Intense. I love the vanilla in this. I love the iris. It has a healthy dose, a strong dose of lavender. You have some spices from cinnamon, and overall this one performs the best on me. I think this one is versatile as well. I would consider this to be a better date night fragrance than the other 2. The other 2 we looked at, BOISEE and Intense, are more professional smelling. This also smells professional, but because of the sweetness, it works really well for a date night fragrance or a winter fragrance when you want to smell comforting and warming. So if you imagine it's winter, cold outside, you've got the fireplace on, you're sat on your sofa, if you spray Givenchy Gentleman EDP, you certainly will feel very warm and comforted. And I think that's amazing. I love looking for those kinds of experiences in fragrances. So far, out of these 3 we've looked at, Givenchy Gentleman EDP is my favorite. Moving on to the last fragrance in this list and the newest fragrance in the Givenchy Gentleman line. This is Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Prive. The main difference in this one is this has the addition of a whiskey note. So it has a nice boozy touch at the top, which I think works really well with the other notes already listed. This also has a chestnut note, so it smells a bit nutty and works really well with the iris and the whiskey. They blend together really nicely. But this one reminds me half of Givenchy Gentleman EDP because you have got some sweetness in here as well, and also reminds me, not completely, but I get a similar vibe to Armani Stronger With You Absolutely, because that has chestnut and that has rum, and this has a boozy note in whiskey and it has a chestnut note as well, so it does have a similar feel to that. If you think of a hybrid between Givenchy Gentleman EDP with Armani Stronger With You Absolutely, you wouldn't be a million miles away to how this smells. It does smell really pleasant, really nice. I think if I'm going to buy one of these Givenchy Gentleman fragrances, I would just go with the Eau de Parfum. I'm not sure if this brings anything extra to the table, especially if you own Stronger With You Absolutely as well. I don't know if it's worth going for both, but all in all, this is a really nice fragrance. Again, all of these fragrances in the Givenchy Gentleman line do smell really nice. They smell professional, they smell sophisticated, and they do smell like a gentleman, which goes really well with the name as well. One thing I will say about the note of iris, works really well in formal occasions. So anywhere where you're dressing up, maybe in a suit or just smart casual, wearing any of these 4 fragrances, you're going to smell really nice. In terms of my favorite, it would be the Givenchy Gentleman EDP. And that is because I love the dark vanilla, and this works better for me on my skin, projects really nicely, and I love the warming, comforting smell I get when I wear this. My second favorite is the Givenchy Gentleman Intense. I really like the cypress and the basil, the spiciness this gives. I like the change. It just gives a refreshing change to the typical iris and woodsy structure that we've got in these fragrances. So if you're going to buy any of these, I would recommend the EDP or the Intense, but all of these smell great, but those are the 2 I would personally recommend. Let me know your favorite Givenchy Gentleman.